Good evening. Chinese astronauts may be stuck after some debris damages their return capsule. Jared Isaacman officially renominated to be NASA administrator. We have a bunch of recent articles, all just apeshit about data centers in orbit. But thanks to the revived Space Cynic, we also have a devastating takedown of all the hype. SpaceX is promising a speedier timeline for its Starship moonlander. Nevertheless, the door remains open for Bezos and other potential providers. An iconic NASA facility may be shuttered due to the shutdown. A Japanese startup wants to build a space plane that can fly from Tokyo to New York City in an hour for only $675,000 a ticket. SpaceX might get a $2 billion contract for the Golden Dome project. Resources and rivalries will decide the new moon race, but you knew that. And Intuitive Machines gets an AFRL contract extension for about $8 million for space nuclear technology. From the news desk, the Center for Space Commerce and Finance, my name is Thomas Andrew Olson, and this is The Unknown Quantity. And as you may have guessed, our producer, Sean Key, is not with us this evening, but we're going to get through it the best we can tonight. It's going to be fun. As you know, this podcast is brought to you by the Center for Space Commerce and Finance. And what do? We champion and strengthen emerging space startups and space-adjacent enterprises worldwide through advisory, access, and advocacy, our pitch events, and world-class boot camps fortify startups to be better investor ready. A lot of our work, especially this podcast, is supported by our listeners and fans like you. So just go to cscf.space/support and click that plain as day donate button. A little in the tip jar makes a big difference for us. Thanks in advance. And now, my oldest space friend of all time, Michael Lane, who just flew across the country and has just finished lubricating his wheel of Dharma, is here with us. Michael, come on in. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. As you pointed out, Sean is not here, so I am clumsily manning the con. But yeah, it was great. I flew out to Atlanta. Tomorrow's my birthday. We're just gonna hang out. We're gonna go out to Savannah for a couple days. Just kind of chill.
Yeah, your happy birthday, man. You're officially a graybeard now. So yeah.
Yeah. You and I have spent a couple birthdays together. I remember one particular in New York, and it might have been 2013. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, we came out there for my birthday. Yeah. All right. What's going on? What are we talking about this
morning? I just got through my last conferences of the year. There was a Space Settlement Summit that NSS did. It was kind of interesting. They had a lot of interesting stuff. It was like an extension of the Mars track at ISDC that I never get to watch because it's always opposite my business track. And so it's like, oh, this is what I missed in June. This a lot of it was.
Yeah. There was a lot going on in Florida this week, right?
There's also The Economist puts on an space economy summit the next 2 days. I went to it yesterday. Yeah, completely different vibe. It had more of a vibe of, it has some space conferencey stuff to it, but it had a lot more people, and some of the presentations had more of the vibe that I get at the satellite conference in DC, in March. And so, but there's also some really great stuff happened there too. And that was actually, for me, that was a better place to network. And so, and I actually
Yeah.
met up with some people. A guy, you're gonna love this guy. I haven't seen him in years and years, but he's been an investor in space stuff, but also on kind of on the side. He's also done stuff with like hypersonics. He's working on now and a bunch of other things. His name is Vic Kachoria, and I think I'm gonna
Oh, Vic, yeah.
yeah, I think
Boom, I
you
think.
remember him.
Yeah.
Well, he was
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, looking pretty good, looking
Wow. Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
snappy. And you know, we had this talk, and he's going to consider being on the business track in June and come down to DC
Awesome.
for that. So that's going to be,
Awesome.
oh God, that's going to be great. I also got the nod to do a panel on the main stage at ISDC just
Nice.
before the
Good.
business track. So that there's that morning
Okay.
plenary session. We have this wonderful, you know, business panel for some really high-end people from around the world, and then and as soon as that's done, 15 minutes later, we start the business track. Come on down, guys. You know, it's going to be
Perfect.
great.
Good. Good.
So
Good. Good.
the
And
new now
shout
the
out to
news.
ourselves. We are going to be wait. Just shout out to ourselves.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
going to be doing a show that's going to be
yes,
also part of the schedule. So that's
yeah.
also,
I know.
you know,
It's,
shout out to us for doing good
it's
there.
actually on the schedule this time, so it's gonna. I
Good.
predict
Yeah.
that room's going to fill. They got a special room for it, so we're all on the schedule. So Rod Pyle
Great.
is going to be doing his show in there too, and another day.
Good.
Well, the
Good.
thing
Good.
too, and he gave me, and I talked to him at length actually yesterday, and he kind of gave us a shout out because he's saying, you know, I told him we just celebrated our first year, you know, I think, and it says he said you're doing better than a lot. The average podcast, you know, guy who starts up, they don't last more than about 9 or 10 shows, and they just, you know, they
Right.
don't get any traction, so
No.
they give it
No.
up. And so here we are, hanging in there for good or ill, and it's having a great time.
Twice a week for most of the year.
We,
We didn't start out at that, but by the time February rolls around, we were doing twice a
yeah,
week since February,
yeah,
I think.
and the
So
numbers keep going
yeah,
up
yeah,
just a
we're
little
kicking
bit,
butt.
you know.
Yeah.
And get a wave to Dan Golden. He's one of our fans. Thanks, Dan. Oh, we love that. Now, the news links I sent you earlier this evening. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of them, but you got 5 of them in a kind of a cluster. That's one topic, and there's another 4 in a cluster. That's another topic. Otherwise, the rest of it's pretty straightforward. So, some of that stuff we can rip through kind of quickly, just for the sake of the audience. Morty, hi, how you doing? Welcome back. Good to see you. Um, so anyway, but we start in. We have an interesting situation just unfolded within the last day, which is Chinese taikonauts, as we sometimes call them, are actually stranded in their space station right now. Their capsule they came up with and were going to return home with. Apparently, may have gotten a little damage from some space debris. And so they're going through great lengths to check that out and then make sure it's not, you know, critically damaged. And so they've been, because they're just finishing their 6-month run. There's 3 guys up there. And they've been there 6 months. They were timed to come back and do a rotation. And just before, just like today or yesterday, they got a bang and they looked and they're seeing if there's some damage to the capsule they're supposed to come home in. We'll see how that. We're going to keep watching that story and see how that unfolds. Obviously, wish them all the best, and yeah, it's time to clean up. It's time to clean up the debris. Hey, people are working on it. We'll see. Oh dear, Michael, I lost your audio again. Let me pop this in. These happen sometimes. This happens sometimes when, you know, one or the other of us are on the road. So I hope y'all can hear me. Morning, other guys, let me know. Let's see if Michael comes back. And we have lost Michael. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and go forward with this. Thing is, I have a multitude of articles. Actually, the next one that should be up, I'm not sure why isn't it on my list. Oh, is that the White House actually renominated Jared Isaacman to be NASA administrator formally. So we're hoping that just sails through quickly, since he already went through a whole bunch of vetting, the last time around. So maybe it'll just get done and he'll be in there soon. I know Greg Autry was speaking at the event yesterday, and he said he fully expected to be confirmed as CFO of NASA once Isaacman's back in there. So, we're all kind of happy about that as well. So moving on, there's a whole bunch of stuff. The thing seems to dominate the news cycle right now is the idea of massive data centers in orbit. And I caught a few articles about this just very quickly, only because there's just so much of it out there. I know there was something on Ars Technica that said an in-space construction firm says it can help build massive data centers in orbit, and those and these be space-based data centers, but it's a huge array. NVIDIA wants to get in that game. SpaceX is saying, yeah, we're definitely going to be in that game. Google has what they call a moonshot plan for AI data centers in space. And there is an NVIDIA chip launching to orbit next month. That's supposed to pave the way for space-based data centers. It just goes on and on and on. And yes, and of course, Musk says, SpaceX will be doing this. Okay. And then along comes my old buddy Shubber Lee, who's reviving the Space Cynics blog, and I'm probably going to be helping him down the road. And the title is very out there, just right in front of it, and it just says, right up front, why space data centers are bullshit. And so, and I guess Michael is putting up some of those links. So good, Michael. I still don't hear you. You all right? You hear me? Morty hears me. Everybody out there hears me. And Michael I got no audio coming from you, man. I mean, can you at least put up the link to the Space Cynic article? I know. I'm sorry, man. This is not going to be fun. It's what it is. Okay, Joaquin hears me. Everyone hears, and Michael even hears me. We just don't hear Michael. We heard you for a while, and then it went away. I get it. I know. But we're live, so here we go. Keep trying, man. You'll get in there sooner or later. If you can at least post the link to the Space Cynic story, that would be like really great. Because I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through. Yeah, he's okay. He's doing this. No. But the gist of the argument why the space cloud hype is nonsense. The first thing he leads off with is that is the maddening part is you've got thermodynamics 101, the economics of launch and orbital operations reality. And he calls it orbital hyperscale data centers are running on fairy dust thermal physics. So at generous assumptions, 5 gigawatts goes to multi-kilometer squared radiators. a gigaton class structure required over time, and you're going to have both space junk and micrometeoroid vulnerability across a huge, huge footprint. And you can't just hand wave away all that thermal radiation with nanomaterials and AI optimized fins. Physics doesn't care about pitch decks, but there's still a crap ton of money being put into this right now, and everybody's chattering about it. And so even at 100 tons to orbit per flight, you're going to need hundreds, maybe thousands of flights just for the radiator system alone, because launch cost is not equal to assembly cost. It's not equal to maintenance cost, and it's not equal to replacement cost. And a piece of space junk hits that thing, and your hyperscale cloud just became hyperscale shrapnel. And he's got a lovely image of this. It's really interesting. So latency still matters, and there's certainly no ops model. You're not going to just send techs up to service those clusters at the cost of $100 million for an EVA. And what are you going to do? Just reset a DIM module? No, hard pass. So, but the question becomes, why does the hype money still flow? Because the pitch is visceral and cinematic. And so that hits ESG narratives, sci-fi imagination, the Musk halo effect, and you've got something called FOMO, the fear of missing out on frontier tech. And there's not a lot of domain diligence from the generalist funds. And so the actual path to orbital computing, as he says, is far similar. And he ends with, space is exciting, but physics exists. Check out that thing when you can. That's a really great idea to look at. And I guess we're just going to keep moving on because we want to get our guest on in a few minutes. Obviously, the whole world is opened up now because NASA is now pressuring SpaceX for a speedier timeline on getting their Starship lunar lander put together, but they haven't closed the door again that they just opened last week, despite SpaceX making a hard case for landing American astronauts on the moon. NASA is probably going to let Bezos do what Musk has been struggling with right now, and so that competition is on, whether anyone wants it or not. And on CNN, there was another article about other NASA moon lunar lander options that you probably could be looking at. It's a free-for-all right now out there, just a free-for-all. And I'm sorry, Michael, I can't bounce off you on this because I know you probably have a lot to say. And it's going to be frustrating for you, man. It's like, man, it's like, oh, shit. Because I'm just blowing through it. And it's so much easier when I have somebody to talk with about this and bounce off of. And of course, Sean isn't here. So there you go. But one thing, it's kind of a sad thing that they brought up in the news also this week, just the other day, is that there we go. Yeah. Yep. And Musk is going, yeah, we're really going to get there. I promise, we're really going to get there. And we'll see. But he doesn't have it to himself anymore. And so that's going to be, and those conversations are just going to have to continue whether Elon Musk wants that or not. Okay. Shall we move on, Michael? Yeah, there's a NASA building that's been used for a lot of different things. It's being threatened for being shuttered. It's the Goddard Space Center building in Maryland, and it may end up being a victim of the shutdown. And that's kind of a huge problem. It's an iconic campus. They call it a strategic closure, but alarm is growing quickly at federal workers at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. And that has been the nerve center for groundbreaking missions like Hubble and James Webb. There's more than a dozen buildings on the campus, and currently they're being emptied and padlocked during the federal shutdown with very little notice to anybody. and 4 sources spoke to CNN on the condition of anonymity. They were given just days to temporarily return to work and help empty the entire buildings of highly specialized equipment. In the communications sector, the NASA managers wrote that the equipment not moved in time, including one-of-a-kind hardware, could potentially be thrown away or donated. What is going on? It's part of a strategic consideration plan, as a NASA spokesdroid said, and it's mapped out by Goddard leaders that should not impact ongoing projects. But some people are saying they're going to, Trump's April budget already would have slashed the center's funding and workforce, reducing their science staff by 42%. So getting rid of Goddard really removes the entire nation's capability to build, develop, and analyze data from space science satellites. Why are we doing this? Again, why are we doing this? And this closure could also impact the 2027 launch of the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, which is another successor to Hubble and James Webb. And also could affect the Dragonfly program and a whole bunch of other things that they're working on. And they call it the equivalent of taking a Maserati to the junkyard. It's perfectly good. So I don't know where this is going, but a very, very iconic center is in danger of being completely shut down. I'm not sure what we do about that, if we do anything about it at all, except just watch helplessly as this stuff happens. Going forward, I got about 3 minutes. So going forward, some kind of early stage company, a startup in Japan, is revealing plans for a space plane that could travel from Tokyo to New York and cross the Pacific in just 60 minutes. So it's so high above Earth, we enter the atmosphere, at least the destination. So a 12-hour flight is now being cut to 60 minutes, but they want to charge $657,000 for a single ticket. I would say good luck with that right now. I don't know if how big a market you have for something like that at that price, but I guess we're going to find out. Yeah, there you go. It's weird. But it's been that kind of a day, hasn't it, folks? Next up, apparently, according to one source called Tom's Hardware, which is no relation to me, Musk is claiming that SpaceX will receive $2 billion from out of the Golden Dome project budget to include up to 600 satellites to track fast-moving airborne targets. That's a lot of cash for a lot of satellites, as they say. And it's part of it. It'll be part of an air-moving target indicator system, according to the Wall Street Journal. This will represent another satellite project that company would have with the Pentagon alongside a military communications network, or MILNET, which already uses SpaceX's classified Starshield satellites and terminals and a ground tracking satellite system. No one is commenting on the news yet, but it's a massive project, Golden Dome, and so, of course, everyone and their mother is trying to get in there and get a piece of it. But he just keeps moving on, doesn't he? And of course, there was a, if we can get that linked, this is something you guys can read later. They're saying it's a Space News article that says resources, reactors, and rivalries will decide the new moon race. We've already talked about this a lot. I just wanted to share that with everybody. But it's not just erecting flags anymore, but to prospect for and extract water, helium-3, establish nuclear power plants on the moon, and capitalize on a lot of economic and strategic advantages that could shape the balance of power in space for decades to come. And a lot of private companies are now making serious bets on exploiting the moon's resources. So there's hundreds of millions, maybe billions being put into this now. I know one Blue Forest just inked a deal to purchase 1,000 liters of lunar helium-3 annually from Interlune. That's a $300 million deal. So, and no one's dug up a single iota of helium-3 on the moon yet, but people are already willing to pay crap tons of money to get their hands on it. And so, and a lot of it is going to be consuming it. That is not fusion power, as everybody used to say, but quantum data centers for cooling purposes. And of course, Blue Origin announced Project Oasis to identify key resources on the moon by creating ultra high resolution maps from orbit. And there's a lot of other things in there that it's a fun thing to read, and it's a good read. And so, and I've lost Michael again, but okay, I got nothing. Oh, there we go. Well, we got that link up there. You got that going for you, Doug, Morty, all you guys. So you got those to choose from, and you could help with some comments if you wanted to. But the last couple of things is pretty fast. Intuitive Machines just got us 8.2 million AFRL contract extension to advance their in-space nuclear power. And a company called Catalytic Space, they're expanding a software orbital logistics play, and they just secured 5.4 million in seed funding. Now we're at the intersection of space and money. The news about money hasn't been as big as it has been in recent weeks. It seemed almost every show Michael and I were talking on and on and on about all the money that was being poured out there and the people that were getting it. That's slowed down a little bit. That's because the hype machine is going somewhere else, and we're going to be talking about that thing in particular, the orbiting data centers, which are huge in the news right now. And we're going to talk to someone tonight. Our guest tonight, I'm going to get him on right now, is Joaquin Gallardo, who's Senior Vice President of Tech Banking at Silicon Valley Bank. They work with early and growth stage tech companies throughout the greater Seattle area. They connect companies with venture debt, working capital, growth capital, equipment financing, acquisition financing, and they maintain a deep involvement with the entrepreneurial and venture capital communities and advise companies on raising capital and debt financing. Joaquin, welcome to the show.
How are you? Thank you for
I am pretty good. I am pretty darn good. It's like I'm not used to this running it all myself. I'm used to having that interaction with Michael. We bounce off each other so well, and there's nowhere to bounce. I got this basketball. I'm throwing it somewhere, and it keeps missing the hoop. That's kind of where I am right now. But I hear you, and you hear me, and it's lovely to have you. Why don't we start basically with kind of the origin story for you? You got into a pretty high position pretty quickly in your life, and that's a really good thing, and I applaud that, and good for you. And how'd you get there? Where'd you come from?
Well, first, I think just quick disclaimer: my opinions are my own.
Okay, fair enough.
So I have had for a long period. So I'm Chilean originally, and that's my background here, Santiago, Chile. But I grew up, immigrated to the U.S. when I was a child, and I always saw Chile develop over time, and that really piqued my interest in learning a lot about, development and advancing people, cultures, and all that, which is a natural tie-in to the whole sci-fi, advancing humanity, etc. So it really tied together. So when I got to college, I really wanted to study physics, but then I realized real quick that I had to work my way through college, so I did not have time to do homework. So I did the easy thing, which is to do, economics. So with that, I was able to get through college, and I always just went back to the initial source of advancing humanity. So that's part of the whole mission that drove me to diving into space now. But how I got here at Silicon Valley Bank is pretty happenstance. It's because I really enjoy this space that you get to dig into it while being at an institution that really supports your curiosities, especially when talking about future forward founders and companies and investors, what's coming up, what's next, and how do you fund that and support that. that that I just started just going down this rabbit hole.
Okay.
So with all that, I ended up just getting to know the investors in the space, getting to know the clients that are building in space tech. And it's just, exploded being here in Seattle. And, with our satellite manufacturing and the specialized talent that's here, there's just a lot of vibrant ideas and companies and startups in this ecosystem. So I love being a part of that and a part of these conversations, just like this.
Good. Yeah. Good. Tell us a little more about Silicon Valley Bank itself. Our audience probably doesn't know a lot about you. And also, I have to bring it up. Wasn't that the bank that had a bit of a problem a few years back? And obviously, you came back from that. And if you know anything about that comeback story, I'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. So Silicon Valley Bank has been around for 40 years. Of course, started in Silicon Valley, but is a national bank. And the only thing we do is work in the tech community. Everything from life sciences, AI, anything that gets venture funding, including the venture themselves, those are the companies that we work with day in and day out. So we are the bank of the innovation economy. And because of that, it makes us really niche. And that's why a lot of people just haven't heard of us or seen us. We don't have branches. Most tech companies don't need cash, so you don't need a branch. So to that end, we don't have that kind of branding. But in the tech ecosystem, we're prolific. We bank most of these companies and the VCs, and our goal is to bring them together. We want these companies to get funded. We want to help our founders get funded, and that makes everyone successful.
Okay. Do any specific areas in tech sector dominate at all, or you just go after just a wide variety of whatever kind of looks interesting?
Well, I'll say that different investors specialize in different things.
Okay.
So because of that, you end up naturally gravitating towards, if you're an AI investor, it's enterprise software. You just rebranded as AI. And so enterprise software is a big sector, and almost all of it is AI. And those kind of investors are different. They look for different metrics. They have a different amount, the way their funds are structured. They have different set of expectations for these companies. And then you get to frontier tech, like space tech, and that's a different set of investors with a different expertise.
Yep.
And their LPs, the folks and institutions that invest into those VCs that then deploy into these companies, they're all in for the ride because they know it's going to be a longer time horizon to build out the technology, do the research, and then commercialize it. And then after it's commercialized, scale it. And then after it scales, then look for the return, whether that's through being acquired or IPO. So it's fundamentally kind of different. So what I do is a little bit of both. And there's a good cross section between them, but you end up building the networks and communities and the people that I can send an email to and say, hey, I met a really interesting founder, would you talk to them? That takes a lot of relationship building, and you tend to stick in those circles because it has the level of depth where you can't do everything and keep all those relationships going. And to answer your question on, a few years ago, a lot of banks failed, and SVB was one of them. So it was SVB along with First Republic and Signature Bank. It was, we went from a zero interest rate environment where inflation was transitory all the way to jumping the interest rates, and so that turned a lot of long-term investments upside down, which caused issues for a lot of folks. And to that end, SVB experienced a bank run, and and I kind of think this kind of proves out that the FDIC and the powers that be kind of see that SVB is such a pillar in the tech ecosystem that it would have been extremely damaging for a whole bunch of tech companies to not have access to their funds. Right. So they stepped up and they fully backed everything, and then put us up to get acquired by what I think is like one of the best fly under the radar banks, which is First Citizens, and they don't do any tech, and we do. So it was a very diversified acquisition and strategic on their part, and it absolutely helped support and strengthen our balance sheet. And so together, we feel like we just came out ahead. We kept our SVB name, brand, our entire bank that serves just the tech ecosystem remains intact. Our back office works only with tech companies, which is a different level of service and expectation than working in a normal bank.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing this stuff because that is a comeback story. You probably should be shouting from the rooftops. I think it's so we'll do it for you right here. That's great. Good for you. Good for Silicon Valley Bank. I love that you're doing that and you're still serving the community that Michael and I know and love as well. Where are you with space related investments? I know you're doing satellite stuff. You probably do. I know you're doing AI stuff, but AI always leads to this conversation. And this has been a big thing blowing open the conversation this week has been data centers in orbit. There is a whole bunch of different articles. All sorts of different companies want to do this. There's one cynical point of view, obviously, that think these things defy the laws of physics. Where are you with this?
I'm an optimist. Okay. When you were reviewing some of these articles, I just wanted to shout.
Yeah.
Well, to start off, I think it's kind of I remember it makes one of the really good points is physics versus pitch decks, or okay, it had some good bites in there. Don't get me wrong, that's good. The other one was trust your instincts. Physics exists, and I'm like, okay, this is really just going for rabble rousing. Because I mean, physics is counterintuitive. You shouldn't trust your instincts on some things. When it comes to, I don't know, if you're talking about quantum, or if you're talking about, the speed of light or speed of causality or what have you, these things are, so there's a lot of concepts in physics that are just counterintuitive. And there's in my opinion, the technology it goes in steps. And there's a lot of hype being given there. And I think hype is good because hype brings attention. It says, it helps promote a future that we should all work towards. The hype brings more resources and funding. And I don't want to diminish that. Now, the other end of it is a hype bubble. And that's kind of different. So going back to what I was saying about, space investors is, there's a longer time horizon for these investments.
Okay.
And I know some of these investors, and they are much smarter than the dumb money you would just think, like people throwing millions of dollars towards hype. It's, and in a way it shows you want to believe in the hype more than in the technology, because there's a lot that happens under the hood, happens in steps. A lot of it are, frankly, they're kind of trade secrets at this stage, that, as people find their way around, create, engineering problems.
Yeah.
So I think that if you went back 50 years and you said that, and you take one of our latest fighter jets back 50 years, you're going to say there's no way in hell an airplane can pull off these maneuvers. But, you figure things out with creative physics and, and engineering. And that's sort of what's happening. And so all that to take that concept back to the data centers in space is that I don't think people are thinking about the use cases right. These data centers in space are going to they have a need, and there's a demand, and there's a market demand, but it's not you and me using the cloud, making our websites so we can use a data center in space. That's not the near-term use case. And I think that when you're thinking about it, like the immediate use case are other satellites, other using other things in outer space, like the next space station, and putting all these computers, processing power and AI power in space for immediate space applications to make things smarter in space. I think that that level is like the low-hanging fruit for it. And then over time, as you improve the technology, you prove out different design models for radiators or whatever it is that you have to do something with the heat. You can get to that future state. But 100% there's hype that's a part of it. But I don't think that's necessarily bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Michael's sharing that he's about 60% convinced by the data centers. He says small systems are better than big ones for now. And of course, the Cynics article also mentioned probably the early way forward is you're probably going to see more edge solutions pop up first and not send everything to the cloud right away, which is what edge computing is all about. So that's also a competitive factor in deciding to do something like that. But here's the other thing. I want to shift gears just a little bit. One of your neighbors there that you're involved with, I guess, Stoke, just had a huge raise, and as we talked about before the show, we can't get into certain fine details. We can't get into. We're going to stick at the 50,000 foot level. But they did do a $500 million raise. And for the rest of us plebs in the world, it seems like that was out of nowhere. I wonder if you can give us some insight. How a deal like that happens.
It takes time. It takes time. And it takes time and relationships. So a deal like that, like the bank had been working with Stoke for years. Putting together different, debt financing packages at the different stages that the company went through. When you have a lot of hardware, using equity dollars is a very expensive way to buy equipment. So you end up using, all the levers you have. And when you're ambitious enough to create a rocket ship company, and you need all the capital you can get. And so the way that Stoke came together is a process over time where the bank had to really understand really deeply where they were going, the market, what was being financed, and the people involved. Because, being a bank and putting together that package, it's, that's our depositors' money, and we have to protect that. Versus, a VC money where you expect to lose some of that. You expect some things not to work out. We have to be more certain than that. And so over time, in building these relationships and building it from the earliest stages, that is how we were able to put together that financing package, which was.
Well, that makes perfect sense, only because at the end of the day, and I know enough about this to be dangerous, but it's like VCs across the board. I mean, they invest in teams. Mm-hmm. And if you're not investing in a specific thing, you're investing in, we're confident this team can fulfill this specific business vision. And that basic attitude doesn't change just because you add a couple of zeros to the final number. Yeah. In fact, it's more important than ever, I would think.
Yeah, it's the team, but then it's more than that too. It's the execution, and seeing that execution over time, consistently hitting milestones before we thought they were going to be able to hit them.
Yeah,
and it's that behavior over time, consistently proving that this company is really unique in this regard, in their speed and development. Also, they're more than just a rocket company. Like they're also also a software company.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to segue a little bit to say that from the excitement that I'm seeing with what's happening in space tech is that the ecosystem is opening up, and it's opening up in a way that how do I, you feel like it's hype, like it's gold rush, but it's more than that. It's becoming boring in some ways. Like, which is good. All right, so I'll explain what I mean.
Please, we gotta hear this.
Okay. So there's a lot of innovation happening to support the space ecosystem. Where you start before with, okay, space exists as NASA. It's a government thing. And then space exists as a quasi-government thing with, like, you know, Boeing making things. It's like, okay, that's a quasi-government agency. And then it expands out into, you have service and software companies supporting space companies, that where a space company would have to reinvent the wheel every single time to, you know, have a system that help you build a satellite. They would, or reinvent the wheel for the project management that goes along with it, or, you know, reinvent the wheel for how do I get insurance on my satellite? Like, you know, simple things that are easy to do here because you have systems already built. That's what's kind of coming out now. And that's what makes me more excited at the depth of what's being created in the, you know, in the space tech ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
The barriers to being able to do things is starting to go down. You can almost make off-the-shelf satellites with off-the-shelf parts, with off-the-shelf software.
Yeah.
To do something unique that someone hadn't thought of before. Like,
and
that barrier to entry is starting to go down.
And that whole capability did not exist 15 years ago. And so this is that's amazing how far we've grown and continue to grow. I guess you partially answered Michael's next question, is like, you know, to get a big loan package like Stoke got, well, what do you in fact have to prove? How does a bank convince itself that that kind of a big package is a good risk?
Well, I'll step back and say that their financing was $500 million, but the bank did only 100 of that is debt.
Okay.
So it's, you know, it's a lot of that coming from venture capital and, you know, other institutional investors. So to convince a bank for something like that, you have to have some level of scale and proved out some level of what you're trying to accomplish. So, and I'm trying, you know, walking the line on, I'm not sure, you know, that sort of thing. In general, you know, you identify what is this for. Is it, you know, for the launch pad? It's for, like, the systems to get your rocket going, and for so you have to know what the loan is for. And then the next part is, okay, then what pays it back? And so it's the huge, you know, it's the pipeline of people that want to work with Stoke. It's the backlog of companies that would like to de-risk themselves by using more than one rocket provider. It's, you know, there's that demand is pent up. And so that's how you're able to do that, that research, to be able to convince yourself that, okay, if it launches, then it's going to make enough money to repay the debt.
Okay. All right. Do you do expansion rounds too? I mean, are there companies that come to you? You're already in a good space. They've got a good startup thing. They've been in business a while. Now they want to really like expand out. Do you guys help with that too? Expansion rounds, like a Series B or C.
It really does depend. So okay. I'll say this. So normally in like venture scale companies, you'll do like a seed, a Series A, a Series B, but each one is to get to the next one. and especially with space, you're going to eventually run out of cash. And will you have made it to that next step before then? Okay. And so that's where we do venture debt to help augment the last round to make sure that you do get there. You hit that milestone, but then you exceed that milestone as well. So it's one of those things where those things depend, and those milestones to hit that next raise, you have to know what those are before you even finish the current one, because you have to raise enough to be able to reach that second one. Right. And so then set yourself up for success. So you work with the investors to figure that out around the board, and then the bank wants to understand that as well. And so all that to say, if you're in the middle of your halfway through your A and you need a little bit more to get to that B, then we would have to understand, okay, what do you need to have to hit that B? We talk to the investors and the board to make sure that we understand how much time you need to hit there, the conviction they have around it. And then, we're able to come to a point where we can say, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like this is fundable as debt. And then the repayment of that debt is the B. So it's usually then at that point we can refinance or up level the loan to fit that new Series B profile. So it makes sense for there to get to the C. So it's I don't know if that answered the question. I kind of rambled there for a minute.
That's okay. That's all right. Well, yeah. And you're right. Michael made a good comment. It says in real estate, it's location, location, location. In VC, it's milestones, 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 isn't it? Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's something. I mean, we just had an article here about, there's still a lot of all sorts of rivalries and all sorts of things are going on already in developing lunar resources. I know you guys look at a lot of different things, including this launch company, and AI and software and robotics and a bunch of stuff like that. Have you looked at the moon at all and what's going on with the private sector there?
So I'll say no, not as much as I would like. Is the honest answer. And the follow-up to that is looking at time horizons, and it's, if I'm thinking data centers in space have a time horizon that is longer than what people think, then I think going to the moon is even further than that. And so the kind of patient capital needed to go into there, you have to prove, as Michael says, milestones, all along the way.
Yeah.
So I know we can get to the moon, but sort of get back. Can we get back with enough? And then I don't know. I've got so many questions there.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. No, that's fine. I know there's some stuff you can't talk about, and that's I'm fully aware of that and respect that. Not a problem. What gets you excited right now? You talk about, I know you're here because you are interested in space, or you're doing some things involved in there. What's the stuff that gets you excited? What gets you up in the morning?
What gets me excited? All right. There are so many interesting ideas approaching some problems in very unique ways. And some of it is just like, oh, why didn't anybody think about that before? And mind you, some of these are, startups going through like the earliest stages. And so I can't divulge a lot of their ideas as they work their way through their process. But hearing how they're doing something and what makes it different, when you would think it's the same, it's kind of like, oh, there are going to be ways to bring the cost down and to speed the development of what you put in space. One of the, mobility in space is sort of a hot topic. There's a lot of companies working on things like that, whether it's like Starfish moving satellites around, or portal space having building with satellite buses that can move orbits like that. But there's like a lot of different ways these problems are being addressed, the way that they're being solved, and then to get to the next generation that involve fixing so many little steps along the way that you wouldn't think about. Like if to build a satellite, you have to wait 18 months for a certain manufacturer that has a backlog to make that device for you. Like that stuff is slowly being worked through the system. Like it's going to be a lot easier.
I happen to know a guy in Taiwan that has about 1,000 CubeSats already made, ready to go, can be customized in an hour on a shelf in Taiwan. He's ready to roll. I'll put you in touch with him if you need it. That guy is great. He's been on the show a couple of times. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. But let's move on. We're running out of time, so let's move on. I want to get into what we call the crystal ball segment. I know you're involved in all this stuff. You're looking at where the trends are. What do you think the next 5 years look like, and what do the next 25 years look like, ideally, for you?
In the next 5 years, building out a constellation is a mundane task. And that's just going to become a lot easier with, more methods of getting into orbit come online. And what I think that's going to unlock is, well, aside from like the space tech ecosystem expanding, et cetera, all the services and all the different layers in that economy coming together, it's going to unlock a different way of being a human on Earth. Like we thought the internet interconnected us, but now it's going to deepen in a way that you're never going to care where you're roaming anymore. You're never going to care about, does my data plan allow for roaming somewhere else, and do I have to carry a hotspot with me locally? Like I think that a lot of telecom is going to have to change, and that's good. I think the way that data moves will change. I think that there's going to be kind of two layers. It's kind of like, yeah, that's right. And Michael's hotel room will have better internet.
Yeah.
And you can already see a lot of things changing in like where people decide to live as well. Like they can, get a Starlink wherever it is. They don't have to worry about, internet. But more than that too. And the way that data moves, the way that who uses the data has access to the data, I think it's going to change the way we start seeing our national defense. And, in a way, I do think that there's going to be kind of another Cold War, but in space. Like, who's going to advance it faster?
Right. I know you haven't talked about the 25-year much because you're probably trying to avoid that. I don't blame you. But let me try to couch it in a different kind of question, in a different way. If I know we're not talking much about what your thoughts are about the moon, but if you could do more with the moon over a long period of time, would you? And if you could, and if so, why?
Yes, I would. I think it's the easiest place to build a space station of some kind in different places, whether that's, like just a permanent base, like land your rocket, refuel, go to the next spot. I do think that mining is going to change. Like you can mine stuff on the moon, but also asteroids. But getting things back is also hard, and having some sort of space station for that midpoint is, I would love to see something like that. Heavy industry should go to space. Keep the Earth beautiful.
Okay. All right. On that note, Joaquin Gallardo, SVP of Silicon Valley Bank, and a lovely success story yourself personally, and the bank itself making a huge comeback, which we applaud mightily. And thank God you're there and still doing the good work that you do. Thank you. I hope we have you on again, and stick around. We'll have a little post-game chat when we sign off here in a minute. And so nice to have you, and we hope to do this again sometime. Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Great. Okay, folks. This coming Monday, our guest will be Chip Joyce, a longtime strategy advisor to growth stage companies. His specialty is in environments where the problem isn't effort, but clarity, where a business needs to reconnect strategy, execution, and story. He partners with CEOs, boards, and investors to align vision with action and builds organizations that scale cleanly. He has had a lot. I like this guy because he's had a lot to say of late about the rise of AI itself and questions whether the thing is actually developing in the right way and in the right direction. So, as you saw tonight, we looked at something that might be in danger of becoming a sacred cow, which is data centers in orbit. Well, next week, we're going after another potential sacred cow, AI itself. Stay tuned. As always, 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday night. And for the unfortunately silent Michael Lane and Sean Key, I am Thomas Andrew Olson. Keep watching the skies.